Hey, what's up, everybody? Matt Montanez here again. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite plugins by Waves. This is probably my first favorite plugin that I had of Waves, and it made me a huge fan of them. It is the awesome V-Comp. It sounds great on a lot of applications, and I'm going to show it to you today on vocals, a lead vocal. It's a rap vocal, a viola, strings, and also a kick drum. It's modeled after the Neve 2254, and it has this crazy, awesome, warm, fat, rich, like an expensive sound back from like the 60s and 70s. Really cool plugin. So I guess that's why they called it V-Comp for Neve, the V, or vintage, because it's a vintage emulation. I use it a lot on vocals. I use it on drums every now and then because the 2254 was a master bus compressor, similar to the SSL comp. You can use it on a lot of buses, like drum bus. You can use it on strings, which sounds great, even bass. But I like to use it on lead vocals. That's one of my favorite applications for it. And it's just because it brings out a nice characteristics and color and some nice harmonic distortion. Let me show you what it sounds like first on the vocals, and I'm actually going to solo the vocals, and I'm going to toggle it on and off as always. This song's actually by a friend of mine. He goes by Jant. The song's called Motion, and we had tracked these vocals, and we're just in the process of finishing it. So here we go.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it.
So you can hear it when you bypass it, when the plugin's active and then you inactive it. At that point, you hear that his voice kind of goes in the background a little bit. It's not as full. So I'm gonna play that again and just listen for that drop, like his voice will drop back.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Let's just kick this into motion.
It loses like some kind of warmth to it, and that's what this plugin's adding. It's adding some warmth there. Let me show you it on the viola, and same thing, you'll hear it get fuller, like it would get a warm, rich, full sound. That's what's really cool about this plugin, is that it doesn't mess up the mids and high mids when you actually use this compressor. It keeps everything intact. It's like glue because it's a master bus compressor. That's the best way to explain it, I guess, because master bus compressors is they're very gentle when they're compressing, but a lot of times they're not fast enough and things like that, like master bus compressors. They're really there to add tone and characteristics. So that's what this one's doing. It's adding like a sweet tone. It's doing compression, but it adds a tone. And just right away you can hear like it got a little thinner. It's not as fat, it's not as wide, it's not as warm. I'm gonna let it play a little longer and toggle it this time. Right away, as soon as I bypass it, you can hear like that extra reverb sound. It goes away. The sound's not as wide, like I said. So that's what this is doing on that viola there. And let me show you the kick. The kick's a little more subtle. I didn't go crazy on it with the kick, but it sounded really cool. It added the punch I wanted and just that extra warmth, that little harmonics to it that I liked. A lot of like the mid section, it has a little punch there because of the harmonics. It lets it cut through. So that's why I liked it on this record. So here it is with the kick. And it almost makes it like brighter in a sense. Like on this kick drum, it actually makes the kick like a little brighter. So I think that's what's helping it cut through in this mix, is that brightness there. So let's try that again. Like it just got darker all of a sudden. So it's a really dope plugin. Like I said, it's very versatile. You can use it on a lot of different applications. Okay, so now let's go in depth into this plugin. So the cool thing about this plugin is there's a sweet spot on the Wave plugins, and it's by dBFS, decibels full scale. This meter on the V-Comp is actually in dBFS, so that's really cool. The sweet spot for this plugin is between the -22 and the -17 section. When you're going into this plugin, you got an input, and the input's putting the audio signal into the actual compression. How I like to set it up is I bring in my compressor, I set it to in the meter, and then I adjust the input. You're gonna notice there's not a threshold. There's no threshold on this plugin for the compression because the emulation they did of the actual console, it didn't have a threshold. They adjusted it with the master fader. So the more audio signal they pushed the master fader, the more it was compressing. The less audio going, the less it compresses. So you go with the input and you adjust it. So I like to go in and I adjust the input first. And I make sure my meter is bouncing around -22 and -17 there. And it just looks sweet. Then from there, I decide, okay, do I want analog on do I want analog off? And let me show you why. So I'm gonna bring up a meter plugin here, and let's just go with the pass frequency meter plugin. And as you can see, we have a little signal going on here, and that's just the analog sound. It's the harmonics, distortion, and stuff, the way the console sounded. As you can see, it's actually way up here in like 8K area. If I boost this, you can see it comes all the way through. That's what's adding those harmonics. If you switch this down 50%, it drops away. If you put it to off, then it won't show you anything. If I boost a little bit, 25% still not giving us anything. 50%, there's a little notch there, and then 100%. Certain applications I like to keep it on, like for example the kick drums. I definitely like it because it adds that little extraness, that little crispy that I wanted. Like this, like I said, it made it a little brighter, and that's cool, right? It makes it brighter and you don't even need to use an EQ. I was happy about that. Certain applications I like to take it off. For example, if I have a bunch of vocals and I'm stacking them on top of each other, I'll actually pull it off because you start to hear that noise. And then I decide, so the kick, I decided to keep it on, so I kept it at 100. And then you got your output, which we'll talk last. You got your two switches. Limiter, it just turns it into a limiter, and then you'll use these controls here, or compression, and then you use these controls over here. Pretty much these two controls. So I put the compression on. I like to start at 4:1. To me, 4:1's a nice, sweet characteristics. It has a nice color to it. 6 sometimes goes too much of the distortion, like the harmonics to it, and I'm gonna exaggerate the compression on this so you can hear it. And then 3 sometimes isn't enough, and then 2 and 1 is just, to me, it's like, don't even use a compressor, just automate it. But you can do it for that, especially if you're doing master or bus compression, then go ahead and use the 1.5 or the 2:1. Overall though, those are just super duper light for most applications, I feel anyway. So I like to go about 4:1. I'm gonna exaggerate this after on the vocal so you can hear it better. With the kick drum, you won't really hear that harmonic distortion is what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna do that on the vocal track. Then you got your release. Your release is auto, and that's pretty much checking out how much audio signal is going through, and then it sets a release time, or you can set it at 1.5 seconds, 400 milliseconds, or 800 milliseconds. And then you want to set your output, and that's just the makeup gain. For your limiter here at 12, that's actually 0, 0, 0 on the threshold, because the limit level is actually setting a threshold. And then as you bring it down, it increases the threshold. So keep that in mind. Auto's the same thing as here. And then you just get 100 milliseconds, so it goes a little faster. And then you just have the switch on the attack for the limiter, which is fast and slow. It's just those 2 times. Fast is 1 microsecond and slow is 1 millisecond. They're just pretty fast attack. And that's pretty much it. Of course, then your meter, you have gain reduction and out. Once you set your input, got your analog compressor on, and you set your ratio, I usually keep release on auto. Don't worry about it. Then you fix your output, and it's just max matching, the input. So it's just similar. When you bypass it, then it just sounds the same. And that's pretty much how I run my compressor, or at least how I set my settings. So now let me go and exaggerate that compression on that vocal. So here's the vocal.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it.
And you can see my compression rate is barely going about -4, -6, gain reduction.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this in. Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion.
And you can hear it right there, a lot from 4 to 3. You can hear how much of a change it is. It just lightens up quite a bit.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion.
It's almost like his voice got more scratchy. At least that's how I'm hearing it. It sounds like it got more scratchy, and I didn't care for the scratchy at 4:1, so I dropped down to 3:1. I really liked what that sounded like.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this in.
And to me, that sounded super awesome. So then I just brought this back down to make sure it matched the -22, -17 thing I was saying. So keeping everything in mind, I'm actually gonna hit the analog off on this vocal. I only used 1 V comp on the vocals when I was messing with this. As you can see, the vocals, there's only these few tracks. So that's why I had it on, but let's hear it with it off.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Let's just kick this into motion. Kick this into motion. Yeah.
And it's crazy because it still sounds warm and fat, but it kind of losing like that little tiny bit of the richness. And I guess that's why, because it's adding those harmonics from 8K and up, and it kind of loses that detail there. So I actually liked it on the vocals here. I'm going to toggle it from off to on, or from off to 100%, and you're going to hear like the richness kind of goes away.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Let's just kick this into motion. Kick this into motion.
Like you can hear it in those S's and stuff. Like that detail just kind of just barely vanishes.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Let's just kick this into motion. Kick this into motion.
Also too, I should just mention that if you want to move by 0.1 dB, you just click a knob and then you just can use the up and down arrow keys and it moves up 0.1, and then these just move to each one. So, and for the de-esser, I wouldn't really even worry about it. I've messed with this plugin tons of times, and there's times I hear it, there's times I don't. Like I'll bypass the de-esser I have. I'm using the R de-esser. I'll toggle this back and forth and you might not even hear it. Let me even exaggerate the vocals. So let's turn it on first and then we'll toggle it off.
Take a flight for a night, no. Take a flight for a night, no. Take a flight for a night. Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Let's just kick this into motion.
Yeah, so I guess you can barely hear something. I mean, it's so subtle. It's really when he's doing those hard Fs.
Take a flight for.
But overall, it's so light. To me, it doesn't matter. I just always throw the R de-esser or even the stock de-esser in Pro Tools there, and it works just as good. It works really well. And lastly, I actually want to slap it onto the master bus here, so then you can actually hear it on the master with everything. And for a master, of course, we're going to slap on a limiter, and we're going to leave it at pretty much 0, 0. And then let's start with the input. I want to make sure it's that 2217.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Let's just kick this into motion.
So I think that's pretty good there. Now let's see how much gain reduction we're doing.
Take a flight for a night.
So it's doing almost 12. So let's boost this bad boy up a good amount.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Let's just kick this into motion.
Let's bring this down a little bit, the threshold. And this goes by 0.5s.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Let's just kick this into motion. Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion.
And it actually sounds really cool. Like right now I toggled it on and off and you can hear the vocals actually sit on top of the beat. So that's really cool. Like everything kind of starts getting glued together versus the vocals kind of fall by itself and then the beat falls by itself. It actually put them together. That's what I mean about glue.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion. Let's just kick this into motion.
I use this once in a great while on the master, but yeah, so it's real cool. So something similar like this, like 10.5 fast. We can even try it on slow, see what that sounds like.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion.
Yeah, I don't care for that. Fast sounds better.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know.
Fast sounds more glued together, so I'd rather do that. And then I'll rather leave the release on auto. To me, I love the auto sound, so I'll keep that like that. And then you just adjust the output.
Take a flight for a night, nobody gotta know it. Let's just kick this into motion.
Really, really cool plugin, guys. Like I said, this V-Comp is like my first favorite plugin by Waves because it was so gentle on everything and you can really compress stuff and it sounds great. It's awesome. It's an awesome compressor. I love it. So as always, everybody, I hope this video helped. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and share. Leave me a comment below. There'll also be a link in the description below for this plugin if you want to grab it. It's sweet. Keep creating music.